The champagne in my glass had gone warm, but I didn't dare take a sip. I needed a clear head. Tonight was the night. The Crystal Ballroom at the Plaza was filled to capacity with the city's elite, developers, politicians, and the kind of old money that didn't look at the price tag of a skyscraper. This was the 40th anniversary gala of Miller & Sons, the company I had practically bled for over the last 16 years. I stood in the shadows near the AV booth, my thumb scrolling frantically through the teleprompter script one last time. My father, Robert Miller, was notorious for going off script, but I had to make sure the foundational numbers were there. We had just closed the fiscal year with a 20% growth margin, largely due to the Thorn Tower project I had secured and managed. "Avery, fix my tie, will you?" I turned to see my father looming over me. At 68, Robert was still an imposing figure. Silver hair, tailored Italian suit, and an ego that took up more space than the room allowed. "It's fine, Dad," I said, reaching up to adjust the silk knot anyway. It was a reflex. I fixed things. That's what I did. "Are you ready for the announcement?" I put the succession timeline on slide 4, just like we discussed. He didn't meet my eyes. He was looking over my shoulder, scanning the room. Yes, slide 4. "Listen, make sure Bella has a microphone. She's going to come up for the toast." "Bella?" I frowned. My younger sister hadn't stepped foot in the office in 6 months, not since her attempt to launch a luxury lifestyle brand on Instagram imploded. Why is Bella doing the toast? She doesn't know the investors. "She's family, Avery. It's a celebration. Stop being so rigid." He patted my cheek, a gesture that felt more like a dismissal than affection. "Just keep the tech running smooth, okay? That's where you shine." He walked away before I could respond. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. I told myself I was being paranoid. Tonight was the culmination of my life's work. I was the COO. I was the one who knew the name of every foreman, the code to every safe, and the details of every contract. Dad had implied it for years. "When I step down, Avery, this ship is yours to captain." The lights dimmed. The room hushed. Dad took the stage, bathing in the applause. He was charismatic, I'll give him that. He spoke about legacy, about the bricks and mortar that built this family. "But a company cannot look only to the past," he boomed, his voice echoing. "It must look to the future, to vibrancy, to youth, to a new image." I straightened my blazer. This was it. I prepared my face. Humble gratitude, professional resolve. "And so," he continued, sweeping his arm toward the side stage, "it is my greatest honor to introduce the new CEO of Miller Global, the face of our next generation, my daughter, Bella Miller." The applause was polite, confused. My applause died in my throat. The spotlight didn't find me. It swung to the left, catching Bella in a shimmering gold gown that cost more than my first car. She glided onto the stage, waving like she was accepting an Academy Award, not a construction firm. I felt the blood drain from my face. My legs went numb. I stood frozen in the dark, the blue light of the teleprompter reflecting in my eyes. Bella? She couldn't read a blueprint. She thought overhead was a type of lighting. "Thank you, Daddy," Bella squealed into the mic, her voice shrill. "I am so excited to bring like a totally fresh vibe to this dusty old industry. We're going to make construction sexy again." A ripple of uncomfortable laughter went through the crowd. I looked at the front table. Elias Thorne, our biggest client, a man worth billions who didn't tolerate incompetence, wasn't clapping. He was frowning, looking directly at the stage. Then he turned and scanned the room until his eyes locked on me in the shadows. He looked pitying. That look hurt more than the announcement. I wanted to scream. I wanted to storm the stage and tear the microphone from her manicured hands. 16 years. Missed birthdays, canceled vacations, nights sleeping on a cot in a job trailer to ensure deadlines were met. All for this? To be stepped over for the golden child who had never worked a real day in her life? My mother, Susan, rushed over to me in the dark. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Smile, Avery," she hissed through her teeth, her public face still beaming at the stage. "Don't you dare make a scene. Clap for your sister." "He made her CEO," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Mom, she's 30. She's incompetent." "She needs this," Mom snapped. "You're strong, Avery. You have your salary, your little apartment. Bella needs a title. She needs stability after that divorce. You know how fragile she is." "I'm the CO," I choked out. "And you still are," Mom said, smoothing my sleeve. "You'll help her. You'll run things from the back, just like you always do. Bella will be the face, you'll be the brains. It's better this way. You're not photogenic like her." The words hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just about the job. It was about how they saw me. The mule, the ugly duckling, the ATM. I looked at the stage. Bella was laughing, holding a glass of champagne, basking in the light that I had paid for with my sweat. "I can't do this," I said, pulling my arm away. "You will," Mom warned, her voice dropping an octave. "Because if you walk out now, you ruin this family. Don't be selfish, Avery." Selfish. The word echoed in my head as I watched my father wrap his arm around Bella, beaming with a pride he had never, not once, directed at me. I didn't storm out. I didn't flip a table. I did exactly what I had been trained to do for 38 years. I swallowed the bile, I fixed my face into a mask of neutral compliance, and I stood there in the dark. But inside, something fundamental had fractured. The Avery who sought their approval died in that ballroom. The morning after the gala, the headquarters of Miller Global felt different. Or maybe I just saw it differently. The polished mahogany of the boardroom table, which I used to view as a symbol of our stability, now looked like a coffin lid. I was summoned to the executive suite at 9 a.m. sharp. Usually, I was the one leading these meetings, holding the agenda, driving the action items. Today, I was a guest. Robert sat at the head of the table. Bella was in my usual seat to his right, spinning around in the ergonomic chair like a toddler. She was wearing sunglasses indoors and sipping a kale smoothie. "Rough night?" I asked, my voice flat. "Celebrating is hard work, Avery," Bella sighed, not looking up from her phone. "You wouldn't get it. You left so early." "I left at midnight, after I coordinated the cleanup crew and settled the venue bill," I said, placing my notebook on the table. "We need to talk about the transition." "Exactly," Dad clapped his hands. "Transition. That's the spirit, Avery. I knew you'd come around. Your mother said you were a bit emotional last night." "Emotional?" I repeated. "Dad, you appointed a CEO who doesn't know the difference between a subcontractor and a sub-sandwich." "Hey," Bella snapped, lowering her sunglasses. "I have vision, Avery. I have taste. I'm going to rebrand this whole office. Gray is so depressing. We need, like, millennial pink accents." I ignored her and looked straight at my father. "Dad, the Thorn contract, the Westridge development. These are multi-million-dollar projects with strict compliance clauses. If we miss a deadline, if we fail an inspection, we trigger liquidation damages. Bella cannot manage this." Robert sighed, rubbing his temples as if I were a nagging child. "That is why you are here, Avery. Look, let's be honest. You're a grinder. You're fantastic at the boring stuff, paperwork, permits. But you don't have the spark. You don't have the charisma to wine and dine investors." "I secured the Thorn account," I reminded him. "I sat in the mud with Elias Thorn for 3 hours discussing foundation piles while you were golfing." Elias likes you because you're useful, Dad said dismissively. But Bella lights up a room. People want to be around her. That brings in money. So, the plan is what? I asked, leaning back. I do the CEO's job and she gets the title and the salary? You'll get a bump, Dad said magnanimously. 5%. 5%? I almost laughed. Bella is starting at a salary of $400,000, plus bonuses, plus the company car. I know the figures, Dad. I run payroll. She has expenses, Mom chimed in, walking into the room with a tray of coffee. She always appeared when the tension got high, acting as the buffer. She has to maintain an image. Her apartment in the city, her wardrobe, it's all part of the marketing budget, really. So, my labor pays for her lifestyle, I stated. It wasn't a question. We are a family, Mom said, placing a hand on my shoulder. It felt heavy. Why do you always have to make everything a transaction? We do what needs to be done. You're the responsible one, Avery. You always have been. It's your gift. A gift. That's what they called my servitude. I want a contract, I said. If I'm staying as COO under Bella, I want a written contract guaranteeing my autonomy on operations. She stays out of the job sites. She stays out of the financial approvals. Bella laughed. I'm the CEO, Avery. I'm the boss. You don't tell the boss what to do. Actually, Dad interrupted, looking at me with a hardened glint in his eye. Bella is right. We can't have a divided house. You answer to her. But don't worry, she'll listen to your advice. Most of the time. And if I refuse? The room went silent. The air conditioner hummed. Don't be dramatic, Dad said coldly. Where would you go? You've been here 16 years. Your whole identity is this company. You're nearly 40, Avery. Do you really want to start over as a junior project manager somewhere else? Here, you're family. Out there, you're just a middle-aged woman in a man's industry. He knew exactly where to hit. He knew my insecurities. He knew I had sacrificed marriage, children, and a social life for this company. He thought I was trapped. Besides, Mom added softly, think of your father's heart. He needs to retire. If you cause trouble, if you leave, the stress could kill him. Do you want that on your conscience? The manipulation was a masterclass. Guilt, fear, and obligation all wrapped up in a family bow. I looked at them. The father who used me, the mother who enabled him, the sister who laughed at me. They didn't see a person. They saw a structural column, load-bearing, necessary, and completely invisible until it cracked. Fine, I said. My voice was hollow. I'll get back to work. Good girl, Dad smiled, leaning back. I knew you'd see reason. Now help Bella pick out a new color for the logo. Something poppin', right, sweetie? I stood up and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently. As I walked down the hallway to my office, which was half the size of the one Bella now occupied, I felt a strange sensation. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was clarity. They thought I was staying because I was weak. They thought I accepted my place. But they forgot one thing about me. I was the one who kept the records. I was the one who knew where every single skeleton in the Miller closet was buried. I sat at my desk and unlocked my computer. I didn't open the logo design files. For 2 weeks, I played the part of the obedient soldier. I arrived at 7 a.m., I fixed Bella's scheduling errors, and I silently corrected the budget forecasts she had butchered with a red Sharpie because she liked the color. But the atmosphere in the office was shifting. The long-term employees, the ones with grit under their fingernails, were watching. They saw Bella come in at 11 a.m. with shopping bags. They saw her taking 2-hour lunches with her influencer squad while we were scrambling to meet a concrete pour deadline. The breaking point didn't come with a bang. It came with an email. It was a Tuesday. I was reviewing the supplier list for the Westridge project, a massive residential complex that was our bread and butter for the next 2 years. I noticed a change order. Our steel supplier, Majestic Steel, a vendor we had used for a decade because of their flawless safety rating, had been canceled. In their place was a company called Titanium Edge. I had never heard of them. I marched into Bella's office. She was on a FaceTime call, holding up 2 different pairs of heels. "Hang on," she said to the phone, then looked at me with annoyance. "Not much?" "Why did you switch the steel supplier for Westridge?" I asked, putting the paper on her desk. "Oh, that?" She waved a hand. "Titanium Edge is owned by Blake. You know, my friend from the Hamptons. He gave us a great quote. Like 10% cheaper." "Blake?" I stared at her. "Does Blake have ISO certification? Does he have a history of stress testing? Bella, this is structural steel for a 10-story building. You can't just buy it from a guy you met at a beach club." "God, you're such a bore," she rolled her eyes. "Dad said I could cut costs to increase margins. I cut costs. You should be thanking me. Besides, steel is steel, Avery. It's all just metal." "Steel is not just metal," I said, my voice rising. "If the tensile strength isn't rated correctly, people die. I'm changing it back." "No, you're not." She stood up, challenging me. "I signed the contract. It's done. If you change it back, you make me look stupid." "And Dad said you have to respect my authority." I stood there, vibrating with rage. "You are gambling with the company's liability." "I'm being a CEO," she smirked. "Go push some paper, Avery." I turned and left. I needed air. I walked down the back stairs to the loading dock, a place where I usually went to clear my head. The loading dock doors were open. I heard voices around the corner. It was my father and his brother, Uncle Jerry, who handled our legal affairs badly. "Is Avery giving Bella a hard time?" Jerry asked. I froze. "A little," Dad's voice drifted over. "She's nitpicking details, jealousy mostly." "You sure it's safe pushing her this hard?" Jerry asked. "She knows the ops better than anyone." And then I heard the words that severed the last thread of loyalty binding me to my blood. "Avery is a workhorse, Jerry," Dad scoffed. I could hear the smile in his voice. "She's not going anywhere. She's built like a provider. She needs to be needed. We just have to let her feel like she's saving us from Bella's little mistakes now and then, and she'll stay hooked. Besides, she's unmarriable. The company is her husband. She'll work until she drops and will reap the rewards. Bella gets the glory, Avery does the work, and I get my retirement on the yacht." She's unmarriable. The company is her husband. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was the sound of a lock clicking shut. The heat of anger that had been burning in my chest for weeks suddenly turned ice cold. The tears that were threatening to spill evaporated. I wasn't a daughter to him. I wasn't even an employee. I was a utility, an appliance, a tractor to be driven until the wheels fell off, then left to rust in the field. I backed away silently. I walked up the stairs, my heels clicking rhythmically on the concrete. I went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. I looked at the dark circles under my eyes, the gray hairs I hadn't had time to dye. "No more," I whispered to my reflection. I went back to my desk. I didn't change the steel order back. If Bella wanted cheap steel, she would get cheap steel. I simply wrote a memo, an official notice of objection, stating that the COO advised against this vendor due to lack of certification and that the CEO overruled the decision. I emailed it to Bella, CCing Dad, and BCCing my personal external email address. Then I opened my calendar. I canceled my 6 p.m. meeting. I canceled my 7 p.m. site inspection. At 5 p.m. on the dot, I packed my bag. "Where are you going?" Sarah, the accountant, asked, looking shocked. "We have the payroll audit." I'm going home, Sarah, I said calmly. It's 5 p.m. My contract says 9 to 5. If Bella is the CEO, she can handle the audit. I walked out of the building into the evening sun. For the first time in 16 years, I saw the sunset from outside the office. It was beautiful. And it looked like the sky was burning. 3 days after I began my work-to-rule strike, the cracks started to show. But I wasn't looking at the cracks. I was looking for an exit door. I received a text message from Elias Thorne. Site visit, Tower 4, roof, alone, 2 p.m. Elias didn't text. His assistants emailed. This was serious. I arrived at the Thorne Tower construction site. It was my masterpiece, a 50-story glass needle piercing the skyline. I put on my hard hat and took the construction elevator up. The wind whipped around us as we ascended, the city spreading out like a circuit board below. Elias was standing near the edge, looking out. He was a man of few words, known for ruthlessness in business, but absolute loyalty to competence. Mr. Gomez? Thorne, I said, shouting slightly over the wind. He turned. The steel on the Westridge project. Tell me about it. News traveled fast. That's not your project, Elias, I said carefully. I know people in the industry, Avery. I heard Miller Global switched to titanium edge. I looked them up. They operate out of a P.O. box in New Jersey. They recycle scrap metal. He stepped closer, his gray eyes piercing. Did you authorize that? I paused. This was the moment. I could lie and protect my father's reputation, protect the family name, or I could tell the truth. No, I said clearly. I advised against it in writing. I was overruled by the CEO. Elias nodded slowly. I see. And the rumor that you are no longer allowed to speak to clients without your sister present? Company policy, I said with a dry smile. Elias scoffed. He walked over to a stack of rebar and leaned against it. I don't sign contracts with companies, Avery. I sign with people. I signed with you 5 years ago because you caught an error in the seismic grading that would have cost me $20 million. Your father was ready to pour concrete. I remember, I said. My next project, Elias said, looking at me, the harbor redevelopment. $500 million. I haven't awarded the bid yet. Your father thinks it's his. He's counting on it for the quarterly projection, I admitted. He won't get it, Elias said flatly. Not with a cheerleader at the helm and a retiree on the golf course. But he pulled a card from his pocket. It wasn't his business card. It was blank, except for a handwritten number. I had breakfast with the board of Harrington Group yesterday, Elias said. Harrington was our direct competitor. Massive, corporate, well-funded. They are looking for a vice president of operations. They asked me who I trust to build the harbor project. My heart hammered against my ribs. Harrington? That was the major leagues. I told them there is only one person in this city who can build it on time and under budget, Elias continued, but she seems to be tied to a sinking ship. He held out the card. If you ever decide to jump, Avery, give Harrington a call. They are expecting you. And if you go, the harbor project goes with you. I stared at the card. It wasn't just a job offer. It was a weapon. It was the leverage I had never had. Why? I asked. Why help me? You know my father will sue everyone involved. Because I hate waste, Elias said, buttoning his coat. And watching you work for that family is a waste of human potential. Also, your sister called me Eli at the gala. No one calls me Eli. He walked past me toward the elevator. Don't take too long, Avery. Cement hardens fast. I stood on the roof, clutching the card. The wind felt different now. It didn't feel like resistance. It felt like propulsion. I went back to the office with a new mission. I wasn't just leaving. I was preparing a dossier. That night, I stayed late. Not to work, but to copy. I plugged in a terabyte external hard drive. I downloaded every email I had ever sent. I downloaded the original steel quotes. I downloaded the payroll records showing Bella's bonuses. I downloaded the minutes from the meetings where Dad explicitly told me to cut corners, which I had refused to do. I was methodical. I was the receipt keeper. I categorized everything. Safety violations, overruled. Financial irregularities. HR complaints against Robert Miller. I wasn't stealing trade secrets. I was securing my defense. Because I knew my father. When I left, he wouldn't just let me go. He would try to destroy me to explain why the company failed. He would paint me as the villain. I needed to be able to prove that I was the only thing that had been holding the roof up. As the progress bar on the screen hit 99%, Bella walked past my office door. She stopped, looking at me with suspicion. "Working late?" she asked. "I thought you were doing the whole 9 to 5 protest thing." "Just cleaning up some files," I said, pulling the hard drive out and slipping it into my purse, organizing for the future. "Good," she sniffed, "because I need you to sign this check request. It's urgent." She dropped a piece of paper on my desk. It was a request for $200,000. "What is this for?" I asked. "Marketing event," she said vaguely. "A retreat for the executives in Cabo." "We don't have the liquidity for this, Bella. Vendor payments are due next week." "Dad said it's fine." "Just sign it. I need the deposit down by morning." I looked at the check request. I looked at her arrogant face. "I can't sign this, Bella. It's reckless." "You have to," she stomped her foot, "or I'll fire you." "You can't fire me without board approval," I said calmly. "And the board is just Dad and Uncle Jerry, and even they know we need cash flow." "Fine," she grabbed the paper. "I'll get Sarah to do it. She listens to me." She stormed out. I sat there in the silence. I knew Sarah, our timid accountant with a sick mother to support. Bella was going to bully her. I reached into my bag and turned on the voice recorder on my phone. Then I followed Bella down the hall. I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to catch her. I stood outside the accounting office door, the door slightly ajar. I held my phone close to the gap. "I don't care about the cash flow, Sarah." Bella's voice was shrill. "I am the CEO. I am ordering you to wire the funds. Do you want to keep your job? Do you want to keep paying for your mom's nursing home?" "But, Miss Bella," Sarah's voice was trembling, barely audible. "This account is for payroll taxes. If we touch this, it's illegal. The IRS." "The IRS won't know," Bella shouted. "We'll put it back next month when the Thorn payment comes in. Just do it, or pack your box right now." There was a silence, then the sound of keyboard typing. Sarah was crying. "Good choice," Bella sneered. "See, was that so hard?" I stopped recording. My heart was racing. This wasn't just incompetence anymore. This was embezzlement. Using payroll tax funds for a personal vacation? That was federal territory. I waited until Bella's heels clicked away down the corridor. I waited 5 minutes. Then I walked into Sarah's office. Sarah was slumped over her desk, sobbing into her hands. "Sarah," I said softly. She jumped, looking terrified. "Avery, I didn't—" "I know," I said. "I heard." "She made me," Sarah wept. "She threatened my mom's care." "Listen to me closely," I said, locking the door behind me. "Did you authorize the wire yet?" I set it up, pending approval." "Who approves it?" "Usually you, or Robert." "Does Bella have signing authority on that account?" "She demanded the tokens yesterday. Robert gave them to her." "Okay," I said. Let her approve it with her token. Do not use yours. Do not put your name on anything digital regarding this transaction. Send an email to Bella right now, BCC me, stating, per your verbal instruction, the transfer from the tax hold account is ready for your final authorization. Make her click the button. But Avery, if the money goes... If the money goes, it's a crime, I said grimly. But if you refuse, she fires you. If you do it under duress, we need proof it was her. Send the email. Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. Are you going to fix this, Avery? I can't fix this, Sarah, I said, but I can make sure the right person goes to jail when it blows up. I went back to my office. I felt sick, but a cold, hard resolve was solidifying in my gut. They were looting the ship. I couldn't save the ship anymore. I could only save the crew, eventually. The next morning, the transaction went through. $200,000 vanished from our tax holdings and reappeared in the account of a luxury resort in Cabo. I printed the ledger. I printed Sarah's email. I added it to my physical file, which I was now keeping in the trunk of my car, not in the office. It was time. I called the number on the blank card. Harrington Group, a crisp voice answered. This is Avery Miller, I said. I'd like to speak with the hiring committee. Ms. Miller, we've been expecting your call. Can you come in today at noon? The interview with Harrington was surreal. There was no begging, no proving myself. They knew who I was. They had analyzed the Miller Global projects. They knew the margins I achieved. We're offering you the VP of Operations role, the CEO of Harrington said. Base salary is double what you're making now, stock options, and full autonomy on the harbor project, assuming Mr. Thorne follows you. He will, I said confidently. One question, the CEO asked, leaning forward. Why now? You've been loyal to your father for a long time. Loyalty is a two-way street, I said, and the bridge is out. I signed the offer letter right there. Start date, 2 weeks. I drove back to Miller Global. It was Friday afternoon. Dad was in his office, putting into a cup on the carpet. Bella was online shopping. I walked into Dad's office. I didn't knock. Avery, he frowned, looking up from his putter. I'm busy. I'm resigning, I said. I placed the envelope on his desk. He laughed. He actually laughed. He didn't even pick it up. Stop it, Avery. You're having a tantrum. It's been weeks. Get over it. This is my 2 weeks' notice, I said. My last day is the 14th. He stopped smiling. He picked up the letter. He read it. His face turned purple. You can't leave, he sputtered. We have the Westridge inspection next week. We have the audit. Bella is the CEO, I said. She can handle it. You ungrateful little... He stood up, trembling with rage. After everything I gave you a job. I put a roof over your head. I built that roof, Dad, I said quietly, and I paid for it. If you walk out that door, he roared, pointing a shaking finger, you are dead to me. Do you hear me? No inheritance, no family. You will nothing. I already am nothing to you, Dad. It's just took me 38 years to realize it. I turned around. You'll come crawling back, he screamed after me. You'll fail. You're nothing without the Miller name. I walked out past the open door of Bella's office. She looked up, mouth open. Are you quitting? She gasped. But who's going to do the work? You wanted the title, Bella, I said, not breaking stride. Now you get the job. I walked to the elevator. My legs were shaking, but my head was high. I pressed the down button. It felt like the heavy lifting was finally over. My 2-week notice period was a masterclass in hostility. Dad refused to speak to me. He communicated only through yellow sticky notes left on my monitor. Where is the Garcia file? Leave the company laptop. Traitor. Bella oscillated between panic and arrogance. 1 minute she was ignoring me, claiming she had a better strategy anyway, The next, she was hovering at my desk, trying to casually ask how to access the bank portal. "It's in the manual, Bella," I said, packing my personal books into a box. "I can't read your stupid manual, it's like 1,000 pages," she whined. "Then you'd better start reading," I replied. I didn't sabotage anything. I left detailed transition documents. I left a list of passwords. I left a schedule of upcoming deadlines. I knew they wouldn't read them, but I needed to be legally bulletproof. Due diligence was my middle name. On my final day, the office was eerily quiet. No goodbye party, no cake. Most of the staff wouldn't meet my eyes, afraid of Dad's wrath. But at 4 p.m., Marcus, the head foreman, walked into my office. He was still wearing his dusty boots and high-vis vest. He closed the door. "Is it true?" he asked, twisting his cap in his hands. "You're going to Harrington?" "I can't say where I'm going yet, Marcus. Non-compete clauses and all that," I winked. He nodded, understanding. "This place, it's gonna fall apart without you, Avery. That steel order, the guys are saying the rebar looks rusted. It's crap metal." "Document it," I said sharply. "Take photos, Marcus." "Send emails to the safety officer. Cover your team." "I will," he said. He extended a rough, calloused hand. "You were the best boss I ever had. You actually cared if we got home safe." I shook his hand, fighting back tears. That handshake meant more to me than any bonus my father had ever dangled. "Keep your phone on, Marcus," I whispered. "I might be looking for good foremen soon." His eyes widened, then he grinned. "I'll keep it fully charged." At 5 p.m., I placed my badge on the desk. I picked up my single box of belongings, a framed photo of a skyscraper I built, a cactus, and my stapler. I walked to the elevator. As the doors closed, I saw my father standing in the hallway, glaring at me. He looked smaller than I remembered, old, bitter. I didn't wave. The doors slid shut, severing the connection. I walked out to my car. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from my bank app. My final paycheck had been deposited. It was short. They had deducted office damages. Petty. I laughed. I actually laughed. I drove straight to Olivia's house. Olivia was my one true friend outside of work, a divorce attorney with a shark's grin and a heart of gold. "You did it!" she screamed when she opened the door, handing me a glass of wine before I even put my box down. "I did it," I exhaled, collapsing onto her sofa. "I'm unemployed." "Correction," she clinked her glass against mine. "You are emancipated, and on Monday, you start at Harrington. How does it feel?" "Terrifying," I admitted. What if he's right? What if I'm nothing without the family name? "Honey," Olivia said, sitting down, "the Miller name is mud. You are the gold. And speaking of mud, did you bring the drive?" "It's in the safe," I said. "Good, because knowing your father, the lawsuit will land in about 3 months. "You think he'll sue?" "Narcissists don't let their victims walk away, Avery. They destroy them. He's going to blame the coming collapse on you. We need to be ready." I took a sip of wine. I'm ready. Monday morning at Harrington was a culture shock. People smiled. Meetings had agendas. When I pointed out a potential risk in a blueprint, the CEO didn't call me negative. He thanked me. 3 weeks later, Elias Thorne officially pulled the harbor project from Miller Global and awarded it to Harrington Group. The explosion was audible from across the city. My phone blew up. 30 missed calls from Dad, 10 texts from Bella screaming that I stole their client. I didn't answer. I forwarded everything to the evidence folder. I was building a new life. I bought a new wardrobe, sharp suits that weren't gray. I got a haircut. I started sleeping through the night. But in the back of my mind, I was watching the clock. I knew the silence from Miller Global wasn't peace. It was the calm before the storm. 3 months post-departure. I was sitting in my new office at Harrington, a corner office with a view of the river, not the parking lot, reviewing the concrete pours for the harbor project. Things were moving smoothly. Elias was happy. But the grapevine in the construction industry is faster than fiber optics. The rumors about Miller Global were disastrous. Marcus called me on a burner phone during his lunch break. "It's a slaughterhouse, Avery," he whispered. "We failed the Westridge inspection. The inspector found the cheap steel. They halted construction, red tags the whole site." "Did Bella handle it?" I asked, gripping my pen. "Bella cried in front of the inspector. Then she tried to bribe him. Can you believe that? She offered him VIP tickets to a fashion show." I closed my eyes. Oh, God. "Robert is losing his mind," Marcus continued. "He's firing people left and right, blaming everyone. He fired Sarah yesterday." "Sarah?" My stomach dropped. "Why?" "Said she messed up the accounts. Something about missing tax money. He said she stole it." My blood ran cold. They were pinning the Cabo embezzlement on Sarah. "Marcus, tell Sarah to call me immediately. Tell her to bring her copies of the emails." "I will. Also, paychecks are bouncing, Avery. The guys are talking about walking off the job." "Tell them to hold on one more week," I said. "I'm working on something." I hung up and walked into my boss's office. "We need to expand the crew for the harbor project," I said. "I can get us a fully trained team, certified, ready to start Monday. But we have to pay them a signing bonus." "Poaching from Miller," my boss grinned. "Rescuing," I corrected. That week, 20 of Miller Global's best workers resigned and joined my crew at Harrington. The Miller empire was crumbling. The Westridge project was stalled, costing them $50,000 a day in penalties. The Thorn project was gone. Their reputation was in tatters. I watched it happen with a grim satisfaction. This was the vision Dad wanted. This was the fresh vibe Bella brought. But then the attack came. I was at home, cooking dinner, something I actually had time for now, when the doorbell rang. A process server stood there. "Avery Miller?" "Yes." He handed me a thick envelope. "You've been served." I opened it at the kitchen table. My hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline. Miller Global, Inc. Defendant, Avery Miller. Cause of action, breach of fiduciary duty, theft of trade secrets, tortious interference, corporate sabotage. Damages sought, $10 million. I read the complaint. It was a work of fiction. They claimed I had deliberately ordered the wrong steel before I left. Lie. They claimed I had stolen the Thorn client list. Elias followed me freely. They claimed I had deleted critical files. I left copies. They claimed I had poisoned the staff. And then, the kicker. They were filing an emergency injunction to freeze my assets, my bank accounts, my savings, the money I had scraped together for 16 years. My father was trying to starve me out. He wanted to bankrupt me so I couldn't afford a lawyer to fight him. I picked up my phone and called Olivia. "It's here," I said. "Send me a picture," she said, her voice sharp. I sent it. "Wow," she said after a minute. "He really went for the nuclear option. 10 million? He's delusional." "He's desperate," I said. "Marcus told me they are broke. He thinks if he sues me, I'll settle out of court just to make it go away, and he can use my settlement money to save the company." "Are we going to settle?" Olivia asked, knowing the answer. "No," I said. "We are going to countersue for wrongful termination, for harassment, and, Olivia, I have the Sarah evidence, the embezzlement." "That changes everything," Olivia said. "That's criminal, Avery." "If we use that, your sister goes to prison. Your father might go down as an accessory." I looked out the window. I thought about the 16 years. I thought about the workhorse comment. I thought about Sarah crying. I thought about the cheap steel that could have killed someone. They didn't care if I starved, I said coldly. They didn't care if the building fell down. Do it. File the countersuit and subpoena the bank records for the Cabo transfer. All right, Olivia said. Game on. Get your suit pressed, Avery. We're going to court. The weeks leading up to the hearing were a nightmare. Dad didn't just sue me. He launched a smear campaign. An article appeared in a local business journal. Daughter betrays dynasty. How Avery Miller sabotaged her family firm. It was filled with quotes from anonymous sources, obviously Bella, calling me unstable, jealous, and mentally fragile. They tried to paint me as a bitter spinster who couldn't handle her younger, prettier sister's success. It hurt. I won't lie. Walking into the grocery store and wondering if people believed I was a thief, it stung. But then I went to the construction site. Hey, boss, Marcus shouted, waving a copy of the paper. I use this for kindling. We know the truth. The crew had my back. Elias Thorne issued a public statement. Harrington Group is proud to employ Avery Miller, an executive of unimpeachable integrity. That statement probably hurt my father more than the lawsuit. Then the legal harassment began. Dad's lawyers demanded access to my personal emails, my phone records, even my medical history, trying to prove I was insane. They deposed me for 8 hours. Dad sat across the table, staring at me with pure hatred. Why did you destroy the steel order? His lawyer asked for the 10th time. I didn't, I said calmly. I objected to the change. Here is the email time-stamped 3 weeks before I left. I slid the paper across the table. Dad whispered something to his lawyer. The lawyer frowned. This email, we don't have this in our records. Because Bella deleted it from her inbox, I said. But servers don't lie, and neither do my backups. Dad's face twitched. They were losing, and they knew it, so they escalated. 2 days before the court date, my mother came to my apartment. I hadn't seen her in 4 months. She looked terrible, older, frail. Avery, she wept, standing in my doorway. Please, stop this. I didn't start this, Mom. You sued me. Your father he's not well. His heart, the stress is killing him. Then drop the lawsuit, I said, not letting her in. We can't, she sobbed. The bank is foreclosing on the house. The company accounts are frozen. We need you to take the blame, just a little bit. If you admit to a management error, insurance will cover the losses. We can save the house. Please, Avery, for the family. I stared at her. It was breathtaking. Even now, facing ruin, they wanted me to be the scapegoat. They wanted me to confess to a lie so they could commit insurance fraud. You want me to commit fraud? I asked. To save the house you leveraged to pay for Bella's mistakes? Bella is young. She can't have a record. You are strong, Avery. You can handle it. You can rebuild. Bella can't. No, I said. Avery, I am your mother. And I am the daughter you were willing to sacrifice, I said. Go home, Mom. Tell Dad I'll see him in court. I closed the door. I slid down against it and cried for 5 minutes. Then I washed my face. The morning of the trial arrived. The courtroom was cold. On one side, me, Olivia, and a stack of banker's boxes labeled The Receipts. On the other side, Dad, Mom, Bella, wearing a modest black dress, trying to look innocent, and Uncle Jerry. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Holloway, looked over her glasses at the filed complaints. This is a messy one, she noted. Plaintiff claims $10 million in damages. Defendant claims wrongful termination and countersues for defamation. Dad's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, Avery Miller maliciously orchestrated the downfall of a 40-year-old company out of spite.
We will prove she deleted files, redirected clients, and stole funds. Stole funds? They were projecting so hard. Miss Miller, the judge looked at me, how do you plead to the accusations? I stood up. I looked at my father. He looked confident, smug even. He thought I wouldn't dare destroy the family in public. He thought I would fold under the pressure of the family name. He was wrong.
Your Honor, I said, my voice steady, I deny all allegations, and I would like to submit Evidence Exhibit A, the audio recording dated November 12th. Bella's head snapped up. Her face went white. Dad frowned. What recording? I smiled. It was the smile of the workhorse who had finally kicked down the stable door. The one where the CEO orders the embezzlement of federal payroll taxes, I said. The room went silent. The courtroom was so silent you could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. My father was staring at me, his mouth slightly open, a look of confusion warring with his usual arrogance. He didn't know. That was the first thing I realized. Bella hadn't told him. She had embezzled the money, and she had kept her own father in the dark, letting him believe I was the villain so he would pay for her legal defense. Objection! Dad's lawyer, a man named Mr. Henderson, who charged $800 an hour, jumped up. This recording was obtained illegally. It's inadmissible. Actually, Olivia stood up, smoothing her skirt with a predator's calm. New York is a one-party consent state for recording conversations. And since the recording device, Miss Miller's phone, was in her possession while she stood in the hallway, legally considered a public workspace within the office she managed, it is entirely admissible. Furthermore, we have the sworn affidavit of Sarah Jenkins, the accountant, who confirms the contents of this conversation. Judge Holloway peered over her glasses. Play the tape. Olivia pressed the button on the laptop connected to the courtroom speakers. Static filled the room, followed by the unmistakable, shrill voice of Bella Miller. I don't care about the cash flow, Sarah. I am the CEO. I am ordering you to wire the funds. The IRS won't know. We'll put it back next month. Just do it, or pack your box right now. The audio was crisp. It was brutal. It stripped away every layer of the innocent, overwhelmed victim persona Bella had been wearing all morning. I watched Bella. She wasn't crying anymore. She was gripping the edge of the defendant's table so hard her knuckles were white. She looked at Dad. Daddy, I can explain, she whispered, but in the quiet room, it sounded like a shout. It was a loan. I was going to pay it back. Robert Miller turned to his favorite daughter. For the first time in my life, I saw him look at her the way he usually looked at me, with disgust. But it wasn't because of the morality of what she did. It was because she got caught. It was because she had exposed him. You stole from the payroll tax account? Robert hissed. Do you know what the feds do for that? Order in the court. Judge Holloway banged her gavel. She looked at me. Ms. Miller, you contend this recording proves you did not steal funds? Yes, Your Honor, I said, and it proves the financial instability of the company began long before my departure. I didn't sink the ship. I just got off before it exploded. We have more, Olivia said. Defense calls Elias Thorne to the stand. The doors at the back of the courtroom opened. A collective gasp went through the few spectators, mostly former employees and a few business reporters. Elias Thorne didn't go to court. He had lawyers for that. But here he was, walking down the center aisle in a charcoal suit, looking like a king visiting a peasant uprising. He took the stand. He swore to tell the truth. Mr. Thorne, Olivia asked, why did you move your business from Miller Global to Harrington Group? Elias looked directly at my father. Because Robert Miller values nepotism over structural integrity. I moved my business because Avery Miller is the only person in that family who knows how to build a building that won't fall down. I wasn't stolen. I wasn't poached. I fled to safety. Did Avery Miller ever solicit you to leave while she was employed at Miller Global? No, Elias said. I solicited her, repeatedly, for 5 years. She refused every time out of a misplaced sense of loyalty to a father who clearly doesn't deserve her. Dad flinched. That hit him harder than the financial loss. A billionaire publicly calling him a bad father, that was a stain no PR firm could scrub out. Mr. Thorne, Dad's lawyer tried to cross-examine, is it true you have a personal relationship with the defendant? Elias raised an eyebrow. I have a professional relationship with excellence. If that's what you mean, then yes. The lawyer sat down, defeated. But we weren't done. The embezzlement was just the appetizer. The main course was the fraud my family had attempted to pin on me. Your Honor, Olivia said, her voice dropping an octave, we would like to introduce a document provided to us during discovery, which the plaintiffs surprisingly didn't shred. Exhibit C, the loan guarantee for the Miller Global line of credit, dated 3 days after Avery Miller resigned. I watched my mother. She stopped breathing. She knew what this was. This document, Olivia held up a piece of paper, purports to pledge Avery Miller's personal 401k and savings as collateral for a $2 million emergency loan to the company. It bears a signature that looks remarkably like my client's. I looked at the judge. I didn't sign that, Your Honor. I was already working at Harrington. I haven't been in that building for months. We have a handwriting expert, Olivia continued, who will testify that this signature is a forgery traced directly to the digital stylus of one Bella Miller. Bella let out a sob. Mom told me to do it. She said Avery wouldn't mind. She said Avery always pays for everything anyway. Pandemonium. My mother, the quiet enabler, the woman who baked cookies and told me to be the bigger person, shrank into her seat. She had orchestrated the forgery. She knew Bella was incompetent. She knew the money was gone, and her solution wasn't to cut back, it was to steal my retirement to keep their yacht afloat. I looked at them, the 3 of them, turning on each other, Bella blaming Mom. Dad staring at the wall, realizing his legacy was ashes. It was tragic, and it was absolutely, completely satisfying. If you are watching this, and you have ever felt like you were the only adult in a room full of children who were supposed to be your guardians, please, I am begging you, hit that like button right now. Comment the number 1 below if you've ever had to save yourself because nobody else would. I need to know I'm not the only one who has survived this. Just type 1 and let me know you're with me. The judge ordered a recess, but she didn't let anyone leave the building. She instructed the bailiff to contact the district attorney's office regarding the admitted forgery and embezzlement. During the break, we sat in a small conference room. Olivia was glowing. Do you know what just happened? She asked, pouring water. Bella confessed on the record. She implicated your mother in conspiracy to commit bank fraud. And your father? His negligence is now a matter of public record. They are done, Avery. Not just bankrupt, they are facing prison time. I stared at the water in the plastic cup. I didn't want them to go to prison, Olivia. I just wanted them to leave me alone. They wouldn't leave you alone, she reminded me gently. They came for you. They came for your money, your reputation, your freedom. If that loan document had gone through and the company defaulted, you would have lost every penny you ever saved. You would be destitute right now. That was their plan. I nodded. She was right. It wasn't just greed. It was predation. They were willing to consume me to sustain themselves. We went back into the courtroom. The atmosphere had shifted from a civil trial to a criminal prelude. Judge Holloway didn't waste time. "Based on the testimony and evidence presented," she began, her voice cutting through the air like a diamond saw, "I am dismissing the plaintiff's claims against Avery Miller with prejudice. There is zero evidence of wrongdoing by the defendant. In fact, the evidence suggests Miss Miller was the sole force preventing this company's earlier collapse." She paused, looking at the plaintiff's table. "Furthermore, regarding the countersuit for defamation and wrongful prosecution, I am finding in favor of the defendant, Avery Miller. I am awarding legal fees plus compensatory damages for the reputational harm caused by the plaintiff's public smear campaign." She slammed the gavel. "However, given the admissions made in this courtroom regarding tax fraud, forgery, and identity theft, I am referring this entire transcript to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller, Miss Bella Miller, I suggest you do not leave the state." I stood up. It was over. I looked across the aisle. Bella was weeping into her hands, her mascara running in black streaks down her face, the face of the company now a mask of terror. My mother was clutching her pearls, looking at me with a pleading expression, mouthing the word, "please." My father stood up slowly. He looked old. He looked frail. He walked over to me, ignoring his lawyer who tried to stop him. He stopped 3 feet away. The bailiff stepped closer, hand on his belt, but I held up a hand. I wanted to hear this. "You win," Robert said. His voice was raspy. "Are you happy? You destroyed your family." I looked him in the eye. For the first time, I didn't see the giant who raised me. I saw a small, scared man who had bullied his way through life and finally hit a wall he couldn't intimidate. "I didn't destroy this family, Dad," I said, my voice steady and calm. "You did. You destroyed it the day you decided my value was measured by how much pain I could tolerate in silence. You handed the company to Bella because she was your vanity project. I was just your infrastructure. And you forgot one basic rule of construction." "What's that?" he sneered. "If you destroy the foundation," I said, pointing to my chest, "the house falls down." He flinched. "I built that company," I continued. "I fixed your mistakes. I covered for your golf trips. I cleaned up Bella's messes. And when I stopped, it took 6 months for 40 years of your genius to crumble. That's not my fault. That's gravity." He opened his mouth to speak, to curse me, to manipulate me one last time. "Save it," I said, turning away. "You're going to need your breath for the grand jury." I walked out of the courtroom. The heavy wooden doors swung shut behind me with a definitive thud. Outside, the hallway was crowded. Reporters who had sniffed out the drama were waiting. Camera flashes went off. "Miss Miller! Miss Miller! Is it true your sister forged your signature? Miss Miller, will you be taking over the company?" I stopped at the top of the courthouse steps. The sun was shining. The air tasted sweet. I looked at the cameras. "Miller Global is the past," I said. "I'm looking forward to the future with Harrington Group." I walked down the steps, leaving the chaos behind. I didn't look back. I knew what was happening inside, the dismantling of an empire. It wasn't a happy ending in the Disney sense. My family was ruined, but it was a righteous ending, and for the first time in my life, I felt light. The weight of their expectations, their debts, their judgment, it was all gone. I got into my car. I sat there for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel. I looked at the passenger seat. There was the box of receipts, the hard drives, the files. I didn't need them anymore. The truth was out. I started the engine, and I drove. Not home, not to the office. I drove to the ocean. I needed to see something vast and unbreakable.
The fall of Miller Global wasn't a slide, it was a cliff dive. In the weeks following the trial, the news cycle was relentless. The influencer CEO scandal was catnip for the media. Bella's face was everywhere, not on Forbes, but on TMZ. They uncovered everything. The Cabo trip, the fake steal, the forged documents. The IRS raided the Miller home 3 days after the trial. I saw it on the news. I saw my childhood home, the sprawling estate in Greenwich that Dad loved more than he loved his children, wrapped in yellow police tape. Agents were carrying out boxes. They seized everything. The company accounts were drained to pay back the taxes Bella stole. The bank foreclosed on the house immediately because the mortgage fraud voided their protection clauses. My father filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, personal and corporate. He lost the yacht, he lost the country club membership, he lost the cars. I received a call from the auction house handling the liquidation of Miller Global's assets. "Miss Miller," the auctioneer said, "we are selling off the equipment and the properties. As a creditor, due to your court judgment for legal fees, you have the first right of refusal on certain assets." I hadn't even thought about the money the judge awarded me. I assumed I'd never see it. "I don't want the money," I said, "but is the South Street workshop on the list?" "The old fabrication yard? Yes, it's dilapidated. We were going to sell it for scrap value." "I'll take it," I said, "in lieu of the cash settlement." "You want the junkyard?" "It's not a junkyard," I said, smiling. "It's where I learned to weld." That workshop was the only part of the company that had soul. It was where the old-timers worked. It was where I spent my summers while Bella was at cheer camp. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of the South Street workshop. The Miller and Son sign was rusted and hanging by a screw. I had a crowbar in my trunk. I walked up to the sign. With one hard yank, I pulled the Miller sign down. It clattered onto the concrete. Behind me, a truck pulled up. It was Marcus and the crew I had brought over to Harrington. "Boss," Marcus grinned, leaning out the window, "we heard you bought the clubhouse." "I did," I said. "Harrington is letting us use it as a satellite site for the harbor project. It's ours, Marcus. We run it our way. No shortcuts, no influencers, just work." The guys cheered. But the most satisfying moment, the moment that truly closed the book, happened a month later. I was at a stoplight in downtown. I was driving my new car, a sleek Audi that I bought with my own bonus money. Not a company lease. Mine. I looked to my right. There was a bus stop. Sitting on the bench, looking haggard and gray, was my father. He was wearing a suit, but it was wrinkled. He was holding a plastic bag from a discount pharmacy. He was staring at his feet. He looked up as my car idled. Our eyes locked through the glass. He didn't glare. He didn't shout. He just looked defeated. He looked at my car, then he looked at me. There was a moment of recognition, not just of who I was, but of who he had lost. He realized in that split second that he had bet on the wrong horse. He had thrown away the thoroughbred to parade the pony, and now he was walking. I didn't roll down the window. I didn't offer him a ride. The light turned green. I pressed the gas. I left him at the bus stop. It sounds cruel, I know. A part of me, the old Avery, wanted to save him, wanted to pull over and fix it. But I remembered the lawsuit. I remembered the forgery. I remembered that he was willing to let me go to jail to save his house. Compassion without boundaries is just self-destruction. I had learned that lesson the hard way. I drove away, and I didn't check the rearview mirror. Bella avoided prison by cutting a plea deal. She testified against Dad and Mom. She got 5 years probation and community service. She's currently working as a hostess at a chain restaurant in New Jersey. She tried to start a My Truth YouTube channel, but the comment section ate her alive. Mom and Dad moved into a one-bedroom apartment. They live on Social Security. I hear they argue a lot. They blame each other. They never blame themselves. That's the tragedy of narcissists. They are the heroes of their own victim stories. But their story isn't my story anymore. It has been exactly 1 year since the trial. I am standing on the 45th floor of the Harbor Tower. The glass is polished, the steel is true, and the view is spectacular. I am the Vice President of Operations for the entire Northeast Division of Harrington Group. I have an office that overlooks the city I helped build. I have a team of 60 people who respect me, not because of my last name, but because I know the answer to every question they ask. My phone rings. It's Olivia. "Happy anniversary, free woman," she chirps. "Happy anniversary, shark," I laugh. "Are we still on for dinner?" "Absolutely. Elias is coming too. He wants to talk to you about the Tokyo expansion." "Tokyo?" I pause. "That's a big market." "He says he won't build there unless you lead the ops. He doesn't trust the seismic retrofitting to anyone else." I smile. "Tell him I'm expensive." He knows. That's why he likes you. I hang up and look out the window. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. My phone buzzes again. A text message. It's from a number I don't have saved, but I recognize the area code. It's Mom. "Avery, please call. Your father is depressed. It's his birthday next week. We miss you. We love you. Family comes first." I stare at the words. Family comes first. They still use that phrase like a weapon. Like a magical incantation that is supposed to erase the abuse, the theft, the betrayal. They think time washes away the facts. I think about the woman I was a year ago. The woman who stood in the shadows at the gala, holding a warm glass of champagne, desperate for a crumb of affection. I feel sorry for her, but I am not her anymore. I tap the screen. I don't reply. I press block caller. Then I go to my contacts. I find Robert Miller. Block. I find Bella. Block. I put the phone down on my desk. Real family isn't blood. Blood is just biology. Real family is the people who show up when the walls are cracking. Real family is Marcus, who quit his job to follow me into the unknown. Real family is Olivia, who fought for me when I was too tired to fight for myself. Real family is Elias, who saw my value when my own father saw a utility bill. I picked up my hard hat. It has a sticker on it that says VP Miller. I walked out to the elevator. The doors opened and a group of young engineers were standing there. They stopped talking when they saw me. They straightened up, respectful. "Good evening, Miss Miller," one of them said. "Good evening," I smiled. "Go home, guys. It's 5 p.m. The building will be here tomorrow. Don't miss your lives for this." They looked surprised, then relieved. "Thanks, boss." I rode the elevator down. I walked out into the cool evening air. The city was alive. The lights were twinkling. I used to think my life was over when I lost my family company. I thought I had lost my identity. But I realized that the company was never my identity. It was my cage. And the door had been open the whole time. I just had to be brave enough to walk through it. I am Avery Miller. I build skyscrapers. I build teams. And finally, after 38 years, I have built a life that is structurally sound. Thank you so much for listening to my story. And if you want to hear more stories about how we navigate this messy, beautiful corporate world, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have a lot more receipts to share from my new life. See you in the next one.